but there's always next year. So, my name is Michael Hyman. I'm the president of Scribes. We have that honor. And the first is a presentation of the Scribes Book Award. The Book Award Committee, first of all, I want to tell you who they are. We have one of our members here. That's Bryan Garner from Dallas. Los Angeles, Brian Melende of Minneapolis, and Stuart Schiffman of Springfield. And we meet, and we had about 25 entries of books that were written last year on the legal topics, and we went through them, and we discussed them. It's just a very enjoyable conversation because everybody's interested in good writing and research and so forth and so on. So finally, after a lot of discussion, we had two runners-up, or meritorious winners, and then two winners. And the first runner-up, they were tied, is called Enduring Conviction, Fred Korematsu and His Quest for Justice by Lorraine Banani, it's published by the University of Washington Press, and it has to do with the Korematsu case in 1944, which was a 22-year-old welder in Oakland who chose to disobey the government's order to move from the West Coast. He was of Japanese descent. The author of the book is a professor at Seattle University School of Law and was part of the team that 40 years later had the order of his violation of federal law vacated. What has still left and is part of our law is that Korematsu decision. The Supreme Court has not touched the decision, but at least the order was vacated. And the committee felt the book was very accessible and had an inspiring message. The other runner-up was Imperial from the Beginning, The Constitution of the Original Executive by Professor Prakash, and it's published by Yale University. The author is a distinguished professor of law at the University of Wisconsin. He focuses his research on separation of powers, particularly executive powers, and the book is an historical overview of the origins of presidential powers through the lens of originalism, which Prakash adopts as the proper method of constitutional interpretation. The book achieves clarity without sacrificing complexity or fluency. Doesn't have the most scintillating title, let's say that. So now the winners. No, he couldn't.
He's not.
He's not. After he heard I was going to make a joke about the title, he decided. And so we have one of the two winners here, but the one we don't have here is Lawrence Friedman, who wrote The Big Trial, Law is Public Spectacle, published by University Press of Kansas. And Professor Friedman, who's a Kirkwood professor of Stanford Law School, is one of the most published legal historians around, and several of his books are college texts regarding legal studies in undergraduate school. The Big Trial classifies different types of headline trials, how the stories have contributed to the rise of mass media, and why big trials are considered theater, and the effect of celebrity on trials. The committee considered the book well written, well crafted, and well worth reading. And now it's a great honor that we have our co-scribe award winner here, Will Haygood, whose book was published 5 months ago. And the book, which is right here, I think it's $30, and you get an autograph. Showdown, Thurgood Marshall, and the Supreme Court nomination that changed America. And, you know, timing is everything. And with what's going on, 25th anniversary of the Clarence Thomas confirmation hearings not going on with regard to a spot on the Supreme Court. This is a story about the days of the confirmation hearings for Justice Marshall. Will Haygood is a journalist and historian, and he currently is on leave to teaching at Miami of Ohio, where he graduated as an undergraduate. And some of you may be familiar with his book about the White House butler, Eugene Allen, which was made into a movie, which was called Lee Daniels' The Butler. It should have been called Will Haygood's The Butler, but for whatever reason. Will spent 5 years researching and writing Showdown, and the book is a bit of a thriller. It's a bit of a political drama. It's a bit like a biography in that we have a civil rights icon that he's discussing. And the committee commented and showed they have a strong sense of history. It's telling of little-known parts of the story and its readability. Right now, I went on Google, on Amazon. It's got 4.6 out of 5 stars, which is very good. And over 47 reviews, which one review said, "This is history written with thunder." That's a good sentence. We were talking about legal writing. It's got that punch that Mark Cooney was talking about, right? This is history written with thunder. And so, if you would please come up. You say a few words.
When I was flying out here, I ran into a friend of mine at the airport who I hadn't seen actually since the movie. The Butler came out, and the friend said to me, "You know, Will, goodness gracious, the movie made a lot of money, it won a lot of awards. You know, has anything in your life changed since that movie has come out?" And I had to be honest, I said, "No. Nothing at all. You know, I'm still the same guy, still take the subway to work." But I will have to say this. If you write a story that gets turned into a movie, and the movie makes more than $100 million, you do hear from both of the ladies who turned you down for the high school prom. One said, "Now surely, Will, you aren't holding a grudge, are you?" And I said, "Janet, now why would I hold a grudge about what happened on May 22nd? 2 o'clock in the afternoon when I asked you to go to the prom." Anyway, I thank you all for this honor. It's I have to be very candid here. When I started doing the book, you know, and I'm not a lawyer, didn't go to law school, couldn't have got into law school. Matter of fact, I graduated with a class known as a summa cum lucky. I worked hard, but it was hard to get through Miami, Ohio. You know, now I'm back teaching, and you know, it's kind of unbelievable to me. But you know, I didn't know a lot of these legal terms, and I was having nightmares like rich certiorari, wow, certiorari, what's that? Certiorari, yeah. And then I finally said to myself, I got to do what Will Hager does, and that's tell stories, you know, and that's how the book is shaped. It's shaped around 5 days of his hearings, and I want to end with something. One of the senators was a segregationist senator who did not want Thurgood Marshall on the Supreme Court, Arkansas Senator named John McClellan. And I went to a little college in Arkansas to look at his archives. And I came across a letter that was written on the second day of the Thurgood Marshall hearings. And it was written by someone who lived in Texarkana, Arkansas. And it says, "Dear Senator, I am a resident of Arkansas and a law-abiding citizen who believes strongly in God, democracy, the United States Constitution, and justice for all. Recently, I read an article concerning remarks made by you and another senator about Thurgood Marshall in his efforts to become an Associate Justice of the Supreme Court. Sir, I am a Negro and an American. I want you to know how I feel about Mr. Marshall's nomination. I'm sure that I can speak for all the Negroes in Arkansas. Mr. Marshall is just as qualified as any likely candidate that you know. It has been made quite clear which side you are on. We all know why you and the other Southern senators don't want him to be on the Supreme Court, and it's not because of the U.S. Constitution. You don't want him because he's black. and that is the only reason. Chances are that the nomination will be turned down, but we hope and pray that you will open up your heart and let all of the hatred out and let Mr. Marshall's record speak for itself. Color doesn't make the person senator. It is character that makes the man. If he doesn't get the nomination, there will be others who will seek after the same opportunity. There will be hundreds, Senator, and you can't fight them all. Somebody will get it. One of these days, the President of the United States will be a Negro. And so it has come to pass. Her name is Barbara Ross, who wrote that letter. I tried to track her down. I called the city of Texarkana. I wanted to get a family member, one of her heirs, to send a copy of the book. The Texarkana city clerk told me that she didn't recognize the name, Barbara Ross. I left my number with her, and she called back 5 days later and left a message on my home phone and said, Mr. Haygood, you ought to call this number. I called the number, and I said, hello, my name is Will Haygood, and I've just spent 5 years working on a book about Thurgood Marshall, and I have a letter that's quoted in my book by somebody by the name of Barbara Ross, and the city clerk told me to call this number. The lady on the other end said, my name is Barbara Ross. And I said, oh my goodness, were you named after her or something? And she said, no, I was a 19-year-old college student. And it was on the second day of the hearings. And I told my mother that I wanted to write a letter to our senator in Arkansas. And my father said, don't do it, we'll get the family in trouble. The next day, my father went to the fields, and my mother said, go upstairs and write your letter. And on the letter, it says no answer. She never got an answer. And I was very proud to tell Mrs. Ross that her letter has been answered in the 500 pages of this book. God bless you.
After that, on Amazon, it's going to be 4.9. My next duty is a presentation of some plaques. First, we have a plaque for John Marshall, and Dean Nowicki trying to accept. And we just want to thank John Marshall for their hospitality, for the hosting the CLE, for hosting this presentation, the food, and everything you've done. We appreciate very much the law school has done. It allowed us to have Professor Mark Wojcik be involved, and also our newsletter is published here for reading that column. So thank you very much for everything you do. And Scribes is always looking for a home, and we found our home a year ago at Texas Tech Law School in Lubbock. And the dean is here, who is our former immediate past president, Darby Dickerson, who has come down. And we are very appreciative that our executive director is from Jamie Baker, who's come up too, is at the law school. We had one of the law school professors was here for our CLE. The law school is fantastic. And it's beginning to get national recognition. I read about things you're doing at the law school to change law schools in this country. It's a very advanced law school, and we're going to hear a lot about Texas Tech in the years to come. Thank you very much. When Darby stepped down as president, we didn't have anything. So we had beautiful art, which is very colorful like you. And it's, you know, it's thinking, it's round. I don't know, I don't know what this is. It reminds us of you. And when you look at this in your office, you can remind us of us.
I think Judge Posner's coveting that.
So, but thank you for your guidance, your hard work, your dedication, your caring. And not only that, Dean Dickerson was the Franklin Roosevelt of Scribes. She had a 3-year term, which is unprecedented. Went through the 3 years, so thank you very much. Right, so now we're going to change the bylaws. Now, first of all, you say, some of you aren't members. Who cares about the bylaws and the Constitution? The reason we're changing it is because we always have to change things and have meetings with all of our members. Well, we never have, but once a year we come together and nobody knows what we're talking about. So we've changed the Constitution so that we can do everything through the board. Trust me on it, that's what we're doing. So based upon that, I would like just to have everybody just say approved.
Approved. Approved.
Okay, that's good enough. Very good. All right, so it's been approved. Thank you.
Chicago way, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's why I'm president. All right, so next, now we get down to business. Okay. So, I have the pleasure of introducing our 3 people sitting behind me. First of all, Bryan Garner. For those who may not know Bryan, he is the Henry Watson Fowler of the 21st century. You may have heard of Fowler. He has all these books about writing and so forth. But he really doesn't want to be known that. I think if he had your way, you'd be Arthur Palmer of the legal profession, right? Of the legal right. He loves coffee. He on his website, it says that he realized early at the age of 15 that my primary intellectual interest was the use of English language. And apparently it was genetic. He says, my grandfather had more than a passing interest in language that was magnified 3 or 4 times in my father, who was a true language aficionado. And then my father tells it, his interest seemed to be magnified 100-fold in me. And it's all-consuming passion. Well, all-consuming doesn't even touch what this is like. He's written 33 books and counting by my counting on your website. I couldn't count the number of articles because I don't have the number of fingers to go up that high. I need a calculator to do that. He's famous for the Black's Law Dictionary. Now, I said that the movie The Butler was Lee Daniels' The Butler. So I don't understand why it's not Garner's Black's Law Dictionary. I mean, it's no longer Black's. He hasn't been around for a long time. He doesn't know, that book, it doesn't look anything like it was before you got it. So it's time to change it. It's more than overtime. Garner writes in language and writing and all these tomes, and he wrote 2 books with the late Justice Scalia, which are very popular books. He's a friend and a terrific individual and extremely dedicated to Scribes. Now he's going to introduce I'm going to introduce our Lifetime Award recipients just very briefly. Both of them have influenced the development of the law. And if you don't know who these 2 guys are, then what are you doing here? There's nothing really to say about them. But I can tell you, they're not baseball players. I really doubt you could do all the writing you do and play golf. Am I right?
I don't.
No. Only this guy plays golf. I don't worry by the time. So they're not golfers. They're not politicians. They're just a couple of guys who are good with words. That's their claim to fame. Judge Posner is known as the most quoted jurist in history. Yeah, that's not bad. That's not bad. And Judge Posner and Judge Easterbrook are just 2 of a handful of judges around the country whose opinions, whether you agree with them or not, command attention and consist of engaging and effective prose. And what you guys don't know is that we had a CLE program and we talked about good writing, and they used your examples of your writing to show good writing. So now everybody knows what a good writer. Go to your sentence structure. So we appreciate that. So with that introduction, I'm going to turn it over to Brett.
Well, we don't have a whole lot of time. I'm going to say a word about Judge Posner and a word about Judge Easterbrook, and then we'll have the interview. Judge Posner's wife Charlene is here with us today. Would you raise your hand? A few quick little facts about Judge Posner. He was born in, we'll begin with that, in 1939 in New York, went to Yale undergrad, Harvard Law School, clerked for Justice Brennan, and was nominated and appointed by President Reagan in 1981. He joined the University of Chicago Law Faculty in 1969, and I think his first book was Economic Analysis of the Law, 1973. It's now in the 7th edition. But if you just go through his interests and his specialties, things that he's written about, administrative law, antitrust, law and economics, legal history, conflict of laws, law and literature, legislation, family law, primitive law, torts, contracts, civil procedure, evidence, health law, law and science, copyright and plagiarism, federal courts, terrorism and intelligence, capitalism, judicial behavior, public intellectuals, democracy, moral theory, aging and old age, and sex. Oh, he's written 2 books on sex. They were not instructional manuals. Sex and law. He has extraordinary depth and breadth. His work will be well remembered centuries from now. He is the primary exponent today of a theory of interpretation known as consequentialism. Judge Easterbrook was born also in New York, but in Buffalo, New York, 1949 and 1948, sorry. Went to Swarthmore, University of Chicago Law. Judge Easterbrook, his work as an advocate in the Solicitor General's office is legendary. His briefs are still legendary. He was appointed by President Reagan also in 1985, an expert on economic analysis of the law. His impact on federal rules has been tremendous, and he is known as relentlessly lucid in his judicial opinions. His judicial opinions are going to be a great legacy. They will also be quoted well into the next century and probably the next, even though most judicial opinions don't last that long. Both Posner and Easterbrook have had a tremendous influence on American law, and it's an honor to the Scribes organization to be able to bestow upon them the Lifetime Achievement Award. So,
his wife was also.
Yes, and Barbara is here. Barbara, there you go.
Okay.
I started rushing through things. Sorry about that, Barbara. But I thought I would ask you, first of all, you've both done a lot of scholarship. What do you enjoy writing more, as between judicial opinions and scholarship? Let's begin with Judge Easterbrook.
I don't enjoy writing either of them more. They're both a lot of fun, and Bryan mentioned my time in the Solicitor General's office. I also love writing briefs. One of the things I wish I could do was write judicial opinions and scholarship and briefs all at the same time. If I did that, I'd probably be put in prison. So I tend to write just judicial opinions and the occasional scholarly article.
My bio says that I've written a lot of articles, some of them scholarly. I think that's probably it. There are a lot of fun in different ways. You don't want to do the same thing all the time.
Judge Posner, what about you?
Oh, I prefer writing opinions.
Do you?
Yeah. Really. the cases are goofy and it's the most.
So you don't get enough beanie babies cases, do you?
Very sad about it. And I feel responsible. We used to have loads of beanie baby cases. They were mainly trademark or copyright cases brought by beanie babies. And I think that they started getting assigned to me. And then I spoiled it all. The reason I spoiled it was that Warner, you know, the boss, he was in a fight with someone, and he learned that in litigation, and he learned that his opponent was hiring an expert as an expert witness, someone. And Warner called up his opponent's expert and said, I don't really want to testify. And you know, we used to do business. We might do business. So this was brought out at the trial. The district judge didn't think much of it, but it was appealed. I wrote the paper saying, well, this was serious misconduct. And that was the end of the litigation. Warner later was prosecuted, but he must have decided this was too hot for litigation. Now the appeals against it. So we have other equal.
Just to clarify something you said the Beanie Babies brought the cases. Did you actually hold that they had standing? Or maybe I misunderstood. All right. So the two of you have really transformed, it's fair to say, the Seventh Circuit and much of federal law. The two of you, the most recent study that I've seen, are the two most frequently cited circuit judges out of circuit. I'm curious, how have you influenced each other, if at all, in writing? Has Frank Easterbrook influenced you in your thinking or your writing, Judge Posner?
You know, Frank knows a lot about law. So that's an occasional help. We're actually very different.
Yes.
Frank is a real expert on legal doctrine. And I heard a case yesterday in which the issue was whether this federal habeas corpus, whether someone who was sentenced to 80 years in prison for murder should be entitled to a new trial despite forfeitures that he committed in his original trial because of his actual innocence. And I asked the Lord, what is actual innocence as opposed to innocence? And he said, well, he didn't know, but the Supreme Court had used the term actual innocence. Stuff. But I'm constantly coming across these strange bits of legal jargon that don't actually seem to be there. It's probably in Black's luggage.
So, when you sit together, how often do the two of you agree or disagree? Generally?
I say we usually, it's usual agreement among the parents. We certainly disagree.
So Judge Easterbrook,
There was actually an empirical study finding that Judge Posner and I disagreed more often than any other pair on the Seventh Circuit. We're both kind of strong-willed people.
well, I described Judge Easterbrook as the primary exponent of consequentialism, whereas you
That's that guy.
I'm sorry. Judge Easterbrook is the leading proponent of textualism. It's a rather different theory. But to what extent has Judge Posner influenced you?
Well, when I joined the court, actually before I joined the court, Dick Posner joined the court 3 years and a little before I did. And he started sending me his initial opinions. I was still then on the faculty of the University of Chicago. They were very short. Some of them didn't have any citations at all in them. And that struck me, gee, that's a good thing to emulate. But you get appointed to the Court of Appeals and you feel, especially if you're a young judge, you feel the need to justify everything you're doing. So back when I was appointed, my opinions were longer than his, and I think probably too long. But I set out to be shorter, to follow Strunk-and-White's Rule 13, omit needless words. And since both Dick and I write our own opinions, I found that omitting needless words was also in my self-interest. Because I wouldn't have to press as many keys. And not only that, with word processors, after you press the keys, you could select the text and just hit delete, and it would be gone. This was really quite wonderful. So my opinions started getting longer. And I think over the same time, my opinions started getting shorter. Dick started getting longer, and someplace along in the middle, we passed one another going in opposite directions. But I've tried to cut out absolutely everything that doesn't positively necessarily have to be said. And Dick has become more interested, I think, in the delights of byways.
Rejoin your time, Judge.
No, it's true, but I can't leave out something that's, and I love lectures. So we had a case, a funny case. Illinois had the last horse slaughter facility in the United States. And it turns out Americans had stopped eating horse meat. When I was a kid, when I was young, the Harvard Faculty Club served horse burger sandwiches. This is no longer. So Illinois was alone with its horse farm, and all of its food, according to the phrase, was exported to foreign countries. And I was troubled by this because I knew that some horse meat would be consumed in zoos. And I searched around and I found the birthday feast for a young lion named Kwanzaa. This is food. Kwanzaa's birthday dinner consisted of a horse meat cake topped with whipped cream and candle. And I thought it was important to indicate that indeed there is still a medical market for horse meat, no limited to animals and zoos. Now, frankly, we could regard that as a
So Judge Posner, you're getting longer, and Judge Easterbrook, you're getting shorter. So from a point of view of self-assessment, do you both believe you're becoming better writers?
If both of us didn't believe that, we wouldn't be doing what we're doing.
I think I've become better. I think I've become more, spend more time reading over a draft, seeing. I mean, I do believe in simplification. And there's a tendency to have excess words. mean, your books on writing are really very helpful, but I don't think it's a basically
I'm here to interview you. But that's actually related to the question. The answer is, I think some individuals are quite teachable, but it depends very much on the personal impetus to motivation to get better.
But you must have the same response that I do. Sometimes I talk to lawyers about writing better briefs, and I talk to them about being simple and straightforward and direct and using the active voice and things like that, and they will always say, well, my partner said that some judge 20 years ago told him that you really have to throw in more stuff. Gee, that's what I always do. They always have stories about, well, if it were just up to me, I would write a simple and direct thing. But somebody else told me I should, so I did.
Well, the other experience that I have is talking to an audience of lawyers that I'm convinced are just brilliant lawyers, very intelligent, and then I see their work and I'm thinking, oh no, not nearly what I thought in terms of writing. That rings true for you, though.
Yeah, absolutely. Part of it has to do, I think a lot of brief writing is really directed primarily to their client, the general counsel.
Yes.
And I think if I lose this case, do I have a good argument that I really heard the best? And that reassures the general counsel can reassure the CEO.
Or some other law firm, right? While I was nominally a full-time professor of law, I also briefed appellate cases on the side, some circuits in the Supreme Court. I was always hired by law firms, and Dick had been in the same position. And you write a fairly simple brief containing what needs to be before the appellate court. And then some law firm X will say, well, we really need to discuss this. Law firm Y will say, we really need to discuss that. And if they had their way, this thing would use every word allowed by the rules, and then some. I was actually very resistant to this. I even had to resort to bad lines like, look, you know my record on appeal. As between you and me, who's going to be judging this correctly? I'm doing it my way. You can fire me if you want, but I'm not bombarding it with crap.
Can I say something? When I was a young lawyer, one of my partners hired you to do exactly that, and you told him exactly that. You had written the brief over a weekend. It was Super Bowl Sunday weekend. And you put everything, you put citations, except you said a few citations, it's done. And of course, my senior partner and the others on the case looked at it and said, you got to throw in all that. And you said exactly that. I'm done. You can fire me. Take my name off it. I don't have anything to do with it. You won. You won.
I think we just identified the other side of the anecdote. So I'd like to ask each of you, how much room for improvement is there in the writing of the average appellate lawyer? I would say the average lawyer.
Sorry.
Okay, so lots. And let's say there's a lot of room for improvement. What one step could lawyers take if they were to give themselves, let's say, 15 minutes a day as a regimen? What could they do that would materially help them?
They should read illegal material, not flyers for cocaine businesses. Non-legal material. Go and read the New Republic. Go and read the Weekly Standard. Go and read opinion magazines that are trying to persuade someone on some contested issue in the space of 3 or 4 pages. If you look at the New Republican Weekly Standard, their articles are 4 pages max, 4 double-spaced magazine pages max. They tackle big issues, they make reasonable arguments, and then they stop. And they write them so that normal people can read them. Lawyers, I think, spend much too much of their time reading the work of judges, which as a practical matter usually means the work of 4th-year law students. Right? You stop reading that and start reading people who are really skilled in effective, persuasive writing, and whose work goes by editors who are careful about effective, persuasive writing. And my general advice for what it's worth is that those of you on the right should read the New Republic, and those of you on the left should read the Weekly Standard, because you don't want to read only those articles you already agree with.
Yeah.
You want to see how this works when somebody is trying to persuade you of some position you don't already agree with. The more time you spend doing that, I think the better off you will be when you try to make your own time.
Well, I think good writers tend to be people who read a lot. And have read literature, and so on, and have a real feel for the resources of the English language. But I also think the simplest thing that a writer can do is just reread very carefully what he's written and ask himself, do I need this word? Have I placed the words in the right place? Do I have endless paragraphs? Do I have all long sentences or all short sentences, both of which are unattractive, very long sentences? Have I made sure that the most important words in a sentence are either at the beginning or the end, not in the middle? And they get lost this week. But I don't see where the law schools are teaching.
Well, I think they are.
Some are trying.
I mean, what I learned just 2 years ago, which I really horrified me, was that law students are being taught that they must not accidentally italicize a period. Now, in fact, you cannot, with the naked eye, you cannot tell the difference between italicizing and a Roman period. And one of my law clerks last year, who was up in the NYU Law Review, she said, well, in their law review office, they had a big sheet of white paper, and they had blown up the italics and the period 100 times. And when you blow it up 100 times, you can see that the italicization had created a slightly oval. Now, this is taught in writing classes in the University of Chicago Law School. It's insisted on by law review editors, and it's completely insane.
Okay,
I should have mentioned
we're doing well
right?
here.
Someone here is going to, we could have flags not in Harvard and have courage to tell. So that's what worries me about legal writing instruction.
But there's another thing. Dick pioneered what became the Rule Book in Chicago. I was also on the committee. The idea was to take the Blue Book, take a lot of Blue Books, and you could really make them more on fire. And forget about all those technical rules. You shouldn't spend your life being slave to technical rules. Just use citations so that everybody can understand what you're referring to, right? And stop, if you free your mind from all of this excessive, compulsive stuff around citation form, you might have more time left over for substance.
let's talk about the writing process a little bit. Do you have rituals? When do you write? when do you write? No.
What are these rituals? I mean, I'd like it. I'd have to have a ritual. What do you have?
Well, for example, I've done most of my writing between 11 p.m. and 2 in the morning.
Really?
Yeah. But do you not write at a regular time? No. So Ernest Hemingway said, you can write anytime people will leave you alone, uninterrupted. And is that basically what you do, Frank?
That's certainly me. Part of the problem is getting people to leave you alone. And it's the difficulty for people at law schools, for lawyers. The phone is always ringing. The phone of judges doesn't ring as often. But it's been an increasing difficulty for me because the email program bings more often than it used to. I've tried to set my email program not to bing more than once an hour. I can't make it do that. Right, that's a serious problem. Whenever you have other demands, it's taking away the time for opinion writing. So I can't remember who did this, but it was about 30 years ago. Somebody did a time and motion study of federal appellate judges. And it concluded that federal appellate judge had to spend this much time reading briefs, that much time conference, that much time on the bench, that much time with colleagues, that much time doing administrative duties. And the one thing that gets squeezed in all of this is the time to sit down and write opinions. And that surely is one reason why many judges delegate writing opinions. It's terribly important to fourth-year law students and then end up editing. So you have to spend some of your time figuring out how to have blocks of time to write. Now, for Bryan, that might be between 11 p.m. and 2 a.m. For me, one thing that meant was buying a house in Alaska, where fewer people would be knocking on my door and even know when they were there. It used to be when somebody called my secretary and said, I desperately need to talk to Easterbrook now. She would say, well, he's in Alaska. And they would all just go away and then say, well, I'll talk to him when he gets back. So I have more time, more uninterrupted time in Alaska. They've now figured out that Alaska has email. And of course, I now am married to an Alaskan, which is another, there are more interruptions, but you always have to write blocks of time. I don't view it as a bad interruption. It's just, it means you have to fight in a different way for blocks of useful time.
Judge Posner, do you find yourself writing in just odd moments during the day when you have a couple of spare minutes?
Yeah, it usually turns out to be mostly in the evening. Although I knock off at that one. Yeah. So the only interruption I have when I work at home is from my cat. She has a proprietary interest in my computer. I don't understand. Maybe because it's warm. But she likes to walk across the keyboard, creating, chaos on the screen. Everything bouncing around. And also likes to just lie on the keyboard. And the strangest thing, so next to my keyboard is a mouse pad with a mouse, a wireless mouse. And somehow, so when she's not sitting on the keyboard or walking across the keyboard, she is sitting on the keyboard. On the mouse pad, which means she's sitting on my mouse.
She's a cat.
And if I try to pull the mouse from under her, she will scratch. So
she's just complaining about not having her own computer.
So in all these these times, has she ever come up with anything brilliant on the screen?
She had, well, I'd say these were abstract. Abstract art. Also, she likes rotation. So everything upside down.
It really would take an infinite number of cats to recreate Posner.
Well, I didn't think it would happen, but I think we actually plumbed the depths of your secrets, but
I still haven't revealed my main secret.
tell us.
I'm basically lazy. The reason why I omit words is because I'm so lazy. I get joy out of not having to type them up. It's the same reason I have a beard.
Sounds as if we're very eccentric.
Maybe a trio. Well, I hope you'll. We recorded very little time, but we promised you when you would be out of here. We've gone over a little bit. Would you come down in front and accept your awards?
Don't worry, I can't get here.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you. Let's put the jerseys in the center. Yeah, we figured that out. So maybe. You want to mark or? One second. Back up just a little bit. There are lots of you. Can you hold that so I can see it? Desperately clinging to it. Just like sure like that, yeah.
Like that.
There you go. Perfect.
Hold on. You got some fingerprints.
I don't think yours here. But you never.
So there's one other thing that goes along with the award. Now you are lifetime members of Scribes as well. So thank you very much. And this concludes our meeting. Come down and